In this video, we are doing an interview with Micah Johnson, the creator of the Aku, the Moon God NFT series, and the new Akutar collectibles NFT project. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, so always do your own research. And if you enjoy the daily NFT content and podcasts, make sure that you hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. It really helps us out. So, the man of the hour, Mr. Micah Johnson. How's it going?
What's up, everybody? Can't get enough of you guys today.
We've had a lot of time together today. This is, but you know, that's what's required as you develop strong relationships.
That's it. Now we're gonna be BFFs. I just want the alpha, man.
We definitely have it. You know, I went from this morning feeling like I made the world's worst trade to feeling pretty positive because now I'm basically back in the money. So the emotions running very positively now at this moment. So now my next trade is to hop into your project.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Nick, you waited long enough. I've only been talking about it.
Aren't we in there though? Do we have it in our shared wallet?
I'm going to buy it in the shared wallet. It's not in there right now. I was a little selfish on this one. I was just thinking about me, Nick. But obviously, look, Akutars are going to be in everybody's wallet when it's all said and done. So,
well, awesome. So yeah, let's maybe we can just dive into. I mean, we're going to focus. I think this interview exclusively on the sort of Akutars and
Sure.
and then I mean we can discuss kind of. You had mentioned a number of things today, including gaming and stuff. The sheer ambition of your project, I think, is something which it doesn't come through for most people when you're in the market and you're on OpenSea and you're buying an NFT. The level of effort between one project and the next, it's impossible to like make a quick determination on. But with your team, what you all are building out is at a scale that's absolutely incredible. I remember when we were speaking a few weeks ago, sort of as a prelude to this, you were mentioning that the size of your team. Like, is it cool if you share kind of like where you're at today, how long you've been building this, and like where the company exists at this moment?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you're right about that. It doesn't like extrude out that like how big we are, or how long we've been doing it, or what we're actually doing. You said like a word like, ambitious, and like when we say this stuff, and we're very like quiet people naturally, most people on our team, and so we kind of just work and mind our own business. But at this point, we've been building for 14 months, and everything we're building is in execution mode at this point. Like there isn't much of like, let's hope we do this or we hope we do that. Everything's in execution. Like it's just work now. And so when we talk about film, that's in development. You talk about TV, that's in development. You talk about product lines, development, virtual worlds, because we build an Unreal, development, Miami event, development, other events, all happening. But it's because of the size of our team, we're able to scale up and scale down when needed, first and foremost, from a creative perspective. So with Akutars, that was the biggest we've ever gotten to, over 40 people. Built Akutars, and that pipeline was one of the most impressive things ever. You had a system in a place where every single asset, every single trait went through a long list of and different people touching a single asset. It could be a microphone, it could be an ice cream cone. It was a massive process to that one thing, and it's all because of the things that we were already building that needs to work in these ecosystems that we're building. I think we could have easily released a 2D thing and kept it moving, but then what would happen is it would be required for us to scale up again in the future, play catch up, take all these months and to build these 3D assets, build these environments, do this whole thing. We're done the whole environment building and all that stuff. Akutars are really like the last piece that you slot in, and so that's why we scaled up quickly here. And then across the board, from like the top level, like you have Summer, she was in the crowd today, who deep history in gaming, played him, then, went over to Skybound. So you have her as like a hand, essentially. She's the one that got all the connections through Push, business with Pusha T, and so forth and so on. And then you have Kristen Fraser on the marketing side. She comes from, you know, Nike and Beats, Warner Music. Then you have two people on the story side, world building, who come from, you know, big Lucasfilm. So like, you know, they're elite at what they did over there. We're going to announce that. I'm trying to get them out and announced, but it's just there's too much information to get out. And so after we drop the Akutars, we'll introduce them. But that's really like how we do it. We just get really talented people at the verticals that we build in, and let them go and build.
And that's also the product of building over the course of all of 2021, like building this character, building this project, right? And a lot of people might not realize that this isn't like a regular PFP project that's just coming out right now. This is like you're layers and layers deep in the NFT space, and this is the foray into the collectibles market. And of course, you did it in a really original way. Can you talk a little bit about the mechanics, like, you know, the teams that are involved, the people that are heading up those teams? Because I think a lot of people would find that interesting.
Yeah, first and foremost, the team's idea came about because I just don't think it's I just don't think you can get real-time feedback from a massive audience base. So you think about 15,000 people. So how do you segment that and get real community built? Just like how we built with Aku for a year straight, it was a couple thousand people max, maybe like 2,000 people that were engaged in providing real-time feedback, right? So that's how the idea came about. And then we wanted to really introduce a mechanic that could create collaboration amongst the teams and competitiveness, really, and different kind of social games that we can introduce. Everybody talks about we're building a game, we're building a metaverse, we're building play to earn. Yo, it is so hard to make a really good game and super expensive to make a really good game.
You speak in Nick's language. He says this every time an NFT project says they're making a video game.
It's the stupidest thing ever. It's like, first of all, the PFP money you make off the sale is not enough money to make a really good game that the world is going to want to play. Pure and simple. It costs hundreds of $millions. Why did Epic just go raise $1 billion when Epic has billions of dollars? Like,
they needed more.
Catch up with that. Right. That's your competition is. Competition is not PFP games or play to earn game. Your competition is these games that have billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of users. So we look at this as an opportunity to create social games amongst teams and real engagement, real games, and that like you don't have to build infrastructure to make really good games. You don't have to. Like that's not what you necessarily need to do. And so that's the way we came up with it. It's like,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say there's another company that reached out to us for sponsoring, and we've been chatting with them. And I think they're thinking about this very similarly to how you're describing. And some of the stuff that we've been doing actually in our Discord is in a similar vein, where it's like, how do you bring gaming into this, but you're not doing it in a way where you're trying to produce a high production game, which by the way is likely to fail. Like you're basically all but guaranteed that it's going to fail. And what's your unique experience that gives you, a PFP developer, the ability to go and suddenly build a world-class game? Not even the biggest studios end up actually pulling it off. Most of them are flops even for them.
Stupid. It's fake. It's not real, man. And that's straight up. Like if you want to go, Summer comes from a game. Summer sold Playdom to Disney for the same amount of money, right? 900 million, whatever that was, right?
Yep.
So Summer knows. She did games at Skybound. She knows what it takes to build a game. When I first mentioned like maybe we should build a game, she was like, zero chance you're gonna build, right? And so, I mean, I think it's silly.
But the social game thing, like you're talking about, it sounds really exciting. And that promo video that you put out, I think got everybody really excited. It demonstrated, you know, the caliber of the people that you have deep partnerships with, right? Not like just something recent that came up, but someone like Pusha T, for example, who I know this has been bought in since chapter 1, which is incredible. And you know, and others. And I guess when you kind of think about that, like, do you have more tricks up your sleeve like that? Like you mentioned a couple of levers on the show this morning. Anything that you can drop on us, Micah?
Well, I think we have an incredible amount of support from the community outside of NFTs. Like just from our network and our connections and just relationships. Pure and simple, just relationships. People we're friends with, people we've been with a long time who, you know, want to support, you know, Aku. You know, like the things we do with Boardroom, that's a relationship with Rich Kleiman, right? Rich Kleiman obviously has an incredible career and has done amazing things over there with, KD got him into the, Coinbase deal. Some of our other friends, at different levels, we're just friends and that are supporting Aku. And I think people are going to see that now when Akutars come out. A lot of people they didn't expect were watching the NFT space were watching. They just didn't, they just were waiting for this Akutar to come out and they can really show what represents them. There hasn't really been anything that represents the people that we're working with. To a level there where they feel like they can express themselves, so this is why I'm a character who's about dreaming. These are all people who achieve their dreams at the highest level. And now we got this character that represents them that's dope, and that's really what it's about. So yeah,
I'm picking up what you're putting down, Micah.
Sure.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I see Nick wants to ask a question, but I recognize that.
No, go ahead, please, Pia. What's the why don't you just interpret it, put it through your sort of viewpoint, and then actually just kind of just take it and sort of write the press release right now for kind of where it's headed without with the obscure.
No, I'll let you ask your question, Nick.
Okay. So the thing that I was thinking about, and what's particularly unique here, and at least curious for me, and why a lot of my questions are guided this way, is that to be able to peel back behind the curtain in terms of like, how are these businesses actually run, and like who's building these specific things? Because we take for granted, I think, when we look at, we're trading, in our show and our audience very much is driven around, the day-to-day movements of the market. And obviously, the day-to-day price fluctuations provide a little bit of entertainment possibility, some insight and stuff like that. But what you lose through that sort of viewpoint is kind of the long-term horizon, the development of that business. And I'm wondering for you, like, what has the transition been like? I know that you were, a professional athlete, but I'm wondering what this transition has been like in terms of running an enterprise. Are you CEO of that business? Is your co-founder CEO of the business? Like how does that actually operate, and how has this transition into this been for you?
Yeah, I'm CEO, Summer's president, Amanda's head of operations and legal, obviously Kristen marketing, the other team on the creative council, Spiros is on production. But I'm CEO, and really what that means is really cite a lot on the creative. So as we get into film, right, my focus. The other things, but how's the transition? Can you hear me?
Yep.
We lost you for a second, but you're back.
Oh, all right, my bad. You hear me now?
Yeah.
Let me try this.
Or just turn off the video.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yep, we can hear you.
All right. I was saying, I'm the CEO, Summer's the president, and my team across the board. And the transition for me has been, I've been deep into NFTs for a long time, right? So I understand the infrastructure layers of like the technology and what we can do. So does Summer. And then we have a level of understanding of media, but I brought people in from the media side and film that can help and learn from. And I kind of just play liaison between those two worlds, and how do we connect those two in a way that is also palatable for the NFT community. Because to your point, I agree, the trading and the flipping is healthy in the market, and it is that level of excitement. If you're building long term, people, that's just not that exciting, right? It's not that exciting to talk about a film that comes out in whatever 2024, right? But what can we do in the meantime to keep people engaged and having fun? Well, that's why I think the gaming mechanics and different things that our partners are already planning up taps into to that itch.
I personally am really excited to see what that is. Right now, we've seen sort of baseline dynamics, much of it driven around sort of tokenomics, staking. Those are kind of like the two things that are like we've seen essentially like how many of these are you releasing, and how do you get access to those NFTs, which is the tokenomics side of things. And then there's just really like staking has been the main thing. But any sort of additional layer on top of it is definitely an exciting element to incorporate there. Pio, it looks like did you have something that you wanted to
No, I'm glad that we're talking about this, and I'm glad that people are starting to hopefully understand, the approach that Mike has been taking and that the whole team's been taking to building out the project, because it's something that I've recognized for a while, and the early bet on the project was that something really big was going to be made of it. So, to be here exactly 1 year, today's April 19th, I looked it up yesterday. I did a little video where I kind of showcased Aku after the second chapter came out. It was exactly 1 year ago. So to be here 1 year later and see, where Akutars at, it's incredibly exciting. We talked about this a little bit on the morning show, Micah. What do you make of this face melting pump here going into the snapshot, man? Like, I know that you're confident in Aku and confident in your ability to build something great, but I mean, look, man, even I'm surprised at how crazy this thing's been pumping. It must be amazing, right?
Stressful because we read markets, man, and like that's why we didn't release a price, because we wanted to see what the market was going to do and price it accordingly. And in a way, and the idea was you price it, full transparency. You want to price it where you allow the floor to establish itself for an Akutar, and then obviously upon reveal, people say usually the dips. Again, we have some things that we could pull if we wanted, but if that's the case, you definitely want to keep the floor respectable. And at this point now, you find ourselves in a position where the price has become interesting, where you have to be very careful about how you do it. You price it too high, people call it a cash grab, right? You price it too low, then you undercut the floor that's been established. And so I think that's how we decide today on the mechanic of rewarding pass holders with a discount, because here they come, they're coming in, they're establishing a healthy market. You reward them with the discount, and price it accordingly with the floor. Of course, there's the cap I have in my head. I'm not going to get ridiculous here, man. I'm not an idiot. Where you're going to price it? If it goes to 6, you're not going to price it at 6, right? That's just not a thing. So it's presented some challenges that we definitely didn't anticipate.
I'm not personally surprised with the price. Like, I wasn't originally. Obviously, everyone's not familiar with another person's work until they first find out about it. But I wasn't familiar with it. Aku showed up for me last year on King of Midtown's profile. I remember seeing on his account he was a big fan, and I ended up having on my podcast at that time. And I remember seeing that and being like, wow, this looks like iconic. This is incredible. I didn't actually even do additional deep dive on it. Pio has been long a buyer in it. But what's interesting to me is, like, I don't think that this price is surprising. In fact, I think it should be more. Like, anyone who's investing in developing things, I want to see those prices be higher. And anyone who is not actually building, those prices should be lower. That's just the way that you would hope, at least, that it would be. Now, obviously, in the collectible space, there's more to it than that. Like, if you have a Pokemon, the price of Pokemon does not correlate at all with the ongoing success or failure of their development of the brand to a degree. I mean, there's some correlation with it. But what's also an interesting approach for you all, and I keep bringing it back to this business element, which I know is kind of boring for a lot of people, but when you compare it to, you think of a Bored Ape Yacht Club or something like that, which has basically taken a mostly decentralized approach to the IP. There's people developing individual brands around their ape in a significant way. Like, they're investing significant capital towards that, partnerships and other things. And I think we have one sponsoring us coming up with a huge show that they have, and they're in LA as well. But it's interesting to see what I've been describing as sort of like the ongoing battle between centralized and decentralized, and someone where you're operating the business, building out the IP, and 100% responsible for that. That's sort of counter to a certain degree of what some of the stuff that you would have said, Bored Ape Yacht Club was more, I don't know if you'd call it crypto native or whatever, is what it felt like was this fuck the system sort of thing. And now the irony is, I was like, yeah, wait 12 months, they're going to be part of the system. But which is where they're now at. But I'm wondering for you, how you sort of think about that in terms of that playing out, like on a brand standpoint, because I don't know a bunch of other, like, I don't know what projects you look towards that you find inspiration from that you think are operating outside of the tokenomics standpoint, but more so in the business positioning standpoint, market positioning, where the team is all built internally, where all of the IP is built internally or through, agreements and other things like that. How do you how do you think about those two things, centralized versus decentralized, and how does that like actually impact your business? Uh-oh.
Mike, are you muted?
Might be muted. We can see you and your lips moving, but we can't hear you.
Now we're really hanging on what he's going to say.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can. Yes.
That was weird. I could hear you guys. That was a good question, though. I think for me, here's the straight up facts about Aku and any IP that's being built or seeded crypto natively. There comes a point where distribution needs to occur to a passive consumers, passive audience, people like my daughter, people like everyday people who just want to enjoy this for it to be massive and be that generational thing that everybody says they're building the next thing, whatever. When it gets to that point of distribution, there needs to be a trade-off. That trade-off, typically how it works, is the IP. A Netflix or a Disney or some of these distributors say, I'll buy your IP, we'll distribute that, you'll get a percentage of that, keep it moving. If you get to that point and you're not able to have leverage, then it's over. It's over for everybody. And then what happens is the community becomes, you're beholden to a Disney or a Netflix or so-and-so, name another distributor. And for me personally, we did the TV deal, the film and TV deal in April of last year. And then what I've realized over those couple months was this system that we were going through was actually going to make us give up the IP. People were going to pay for the development, so they're going to get a percentage. And then they're going to take it to a studio, they're going to fund it, and then they're going to own the IP. And that shit was whack to me, because I was like, we building this with my community here. We're building all this amazing things independently. I don't need to do that. I don't need the money to develop it. We reinvest everything into this, so we're good there. And so for us, we need to be able to do this as long as possible independently, pure and simple. Like George Lucas is the last, but really, in Skybound as well is another example of this, where they were able to do this as long as they could independently. But here in this nature of Web3, now we can drive value back to our audience base in a way that they couldn't. Right, their value was in the amazing things that they were creating. That's for us is critical, and my message is critical across the board. When you say, okay, you guys might do really well in this Dutch auction to make a lot of money. Okay, but what are you going to do with that? Which I think that question should be asked by anybody launching a project. What's the money going towards for real? And for us, it's to build an ecosystem where we can remain independent and we can finance these things. Because if not, like, it's proven that Aku is very, well known in the mainstream, right? Maybe not in Web3, but he's known in the mainstream. If not, then we have to go back to the system. And like, that's not the goal at all. Goal is ownership of IP. So that's how I look at it for that. And kind of like what we're doing, or any IP built in Web3.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
sorry.
really important. Go ahead.
I just want to clarify something. You said the goal is ownership of IP. Who owns that? The Aku entity that's being created right now, or the holders of the NFT, or like what is that?
That's a really good question, because right now it's us, because of the sensitive nature of the IP, right? Right now we own the Aku IP. But that is to say that I'm not entirely sure that will always be the case. I'm not entirely sure that having your Akutars be able to do things, because they all have some incredible personalities to them and they're so different, they're so unique, that you can have your own storylines. I am not saying that that's not actually the case one day. I think at this point in time, with all the things we have going on, having an IP, perfectly fine. We have continued to show we drive value back, no problem. But when we really want to turn this on and have this marketing engine, we're all ready for everybody to go.
I think it's actually fascinating when you have everybody creating really cool shit.
Yeah, most definitely. And yeah, we're seeing it with Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's like this living, breathing thing. It's also like interesting seeing it because everyone, including Bored Ape Yacht Club, has their interpretation of like what an ape's body looks like. And from that standpoint, it's also like I'm like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Like, where is this a way that like we can all like steal from each other and come up with the best version of the design? Or is this an approach where like we probably should just have a team internally that's like making that design to ensure that we all have universal like sort of consistency to it? Someone else had a friend of ours had said, you know how to undermine Bored Ape Yacht Club, which I don't fully agree with, but that like I would just take, you know, and buy some Bored Apes and then plaster them and associate them with like offensive things or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you could do that. That would be like a really expensive like campaign. Like I don't know if I've ever seen that like ever, like where someone took pre-exist like outside of like trying to damage that stuff. But it is interesting seeing the variety that exists within these different assets. And sometimes I wonder like, hey, could Bored Ape Yacht Club go and build additional assets that we then get access to? So for you all, you've defined who that character is, and like maybe it's the I don't actually know whether or not the current incarnation of them has a full body, but if they like eventually it has a full body, and then so that like and now everyone can have that 3D version of that body. They can have a high res print of that thing, and then now that becomes an asset that they own as well. That's kind of what I always was anticipating Bored Ape Yacht Club to do, was to continue to give me evolving versions of the assets. Like I want the layered version of it in Photoshop. Or anyways, I'm going on a rant here, just into the essentially saying I think control is actually a really good thing, especially at the beginning of any of these brands, because I don't buy the decentralized approach out the door, because the beginning is the absolute hardest part of getting a business like going. You need a leader, you need ambition, and in a decentralized world, no one in that team outside of all being their own independent leaders has true ambition for that project, because the upside isn't significant enough for them. So that's why I'm like, I like what you're doing. I think that there's a ton of potential there, and it's going to be exciting to watch. That's also just what drives some of those questions that I'm asking about, like understanding the structure of the business, because it really is, we're riding this weird line at the moment of like running a traditional business and talking Web3. And it's,
You're 100% right. I thought it was really cool. And this is one of my biggest honors in my life, that on a serious, is because it shows what Web3 enabled me to do, was being named one of Fast Company's most innovative companies of 2022. It was us and Dapper Labs, the only two companies from, I guess the Web3 world, recognized in that list. And that to me is one of the proudest accomplishments, because what it did was it showed that, maybe I don't care maybe showing other people, but what it did was showed even myself that you built a company, and a real company that is recognized with other real companies, and you went from an artist to a creator of an Aku to, CEO of a company that's, nominated and listed as one of the most innovative companies, right? And in the span of a year. And that to me was bigger than any other thing I've ever done in my life, professionally, artistically, anything, because it showed the power of what this all thing was, and the work of the community, the people, everybody together to make that happen. That was what I'm most proud of, to be honest with you, is just to say that.
I mean, that's so cool, man. And, I agree with what Nick said about the centralized. You say the word centralized in Web3 and people like act like it's a bad word, but sometimes you need to trust the creators and trust that they're going to make the decisions that are appropriate. And that's why you're betting on them, right? And so like, me and Nick, we run a centralized media company, right? Like we make the decisions, and the idea is if we execute properly, that the people that support us will follow through, will benefit. So, Micah, you talked a little bit about what's going on with Friday, and that you've announced the mechanics mechanic, just so that people can fully understand, like, myself included. You were talking about holders of Akutars, holders of chapters. Like, how exactly will it work that we can get in on the public sale on Friday?
So public sale is open for anybody Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay.
That's when it starts. It's a Dutch auction. The final price sets the price for everybody. So if it starts at 100 ETH and it ends at 5 ETH, everybody that bid above that pays 5 ETH. And so that's how it works. Akutar pass holders, anybody, we take a snapshot at Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time as well. Anybody holding a pass and that buys the mint at mint gets a 0.5 ETH discount. And so what that means is if you have 3 passes, any of the passes, and you mint 3, you get 1.5 ETH discount off the final price. And so that's how it works. So like 1.5 ETH, so basically 0.5 ETH for each one you bought, right? So whatever that price end up, you pay the final price, 0.5 ETH for pass holders.
So what's the total supply after the public sale of Akutars?
15,000. So
Okay.
there'll be 5,500 available at public.
That's a reasonable amount. And in terms of, and also just great job on the Dutch auction. That's the way you're supposed to do a Dutch auction, but literally nobody does it that way.
Super weird.
This whole rollout has been stellar, man, with the amount of time between snapshots, the fact that it's airdropped and not a claim. Like, I know it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it shows that you're like, no, you guys are holding these things. We're going to reward you. We're going to airdrop. You don't have to worry about like going to a website to claim or a claim window. It's just going to pop up in your wallet. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing's been immaculate. Nick, it sounded like you wanted to add to that.
No, it's inspiring me personally, and I'm now just I'm having a bunch of ideas. So when we end this call, I want to hop on a call with you, Pia. But in terms of,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say we had to do a lot of this stuff because of our audience base, like our collector base. Like I had to go teach 10 teachers at my high school the other day what MetaMask was, so they could transfer from Nifty. Like our collector base is not crypto. It's not at all, and so we couldn't expect them to go claim something on the site. So just airdrop it, keep it very simple for them. Like, and that's why I think like you look at the numbers around percentage of sale of chapters for sale or Akutars for sale, or it's always like some ridiculous number. And I joke it's because the audience, my collectors just don't know how to sell. Like they don't know the whole process. So there's never anything for sale. And I think it's just, it's really special. So we did 15,000. And the original chapter collection was 15,400. What's going to be fascinating is a lot of these are in hands of the same people who weren't selling chapters. And so that's where it gets really interesting is like this dynamic that's going to happen, which I think happened with the passes. There was only like 49 for sale out of pretty much 10,000 yesterday, is that these are people who have been here for a year, who kind of, like you said, like anticipated eventually it'll happen, who are saying like, this isn't the ceiling, that this is just like really just before getting started. So it's going to be interesting, really, what happens.
Real quick, Nick, this is the ultimate if you know in the NFT space, in my opinion. And maybe I'm just saying that because I've been on it for so long. But the thing is like people don't know, they don't understand. Chapters 2 and 3 were like a 20x and like a 60x, right? And it's because those are the bottlenecks in the series, right? The scarcest chapters are chapters 2 and 3. They came out during the basically the bottom of the bear market of Nifty Gateway. I think chapter 2 did dip below mint price at one point. I don't believe chapter 3 did. And I don't believe chapter 1 ever really dipped below mint price, maybe by like $100 or something. And the statistics surrounding the diamond-handed nature of the holders have been out since like halfway through last year. I remember seeing those statistics early on. It was like a top 5 diamond-handed project in the whole NFT space, and that's halfway through 2021. What a surprise. You're seeing it now, in the collectibles collection. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say the impact of all of this is that essentially, and this is the beauty of NFTs for now. I don't know how long this is going to last, but basically you have this gigantic marketing engine distributing your IP essentially on behalf of, as the community, people who are just fans of those assets basically, before the even full business has been developed, which is insane because now like the ability to close deals, it used to be, oh, I got funded by Andreessen Horowitz, so you should pick up my call. Now it's like I have this community of 10,000 people or 20,000 people, and so you should you should pick up my call because they'll also go buy my stuff.
Yo, 1,000%, dog. Like you don't think like Puma and Planes, you know, like with Planes, like you still have Jay at the top having to prove everything. You got Vandal, you got Push, you got BBC Ice Cream, which is Pharrell. Like they're not just gonna do something, right? And when they saw the community, like they got hype around Chapter 7. Planes is in 7. Like if people look back on Chapter 7, you see the Planes logo in Chapter 7. That got done. Like that was like in a span of like a couple hours. Like they saw the chapter, and then a couple hours they're like, "Yo, we got to get in this." Jay approved it, and boom, Planes is in Chapter 7. Like and then they saw everybody go hype over it. Like that's exactly it. Like the brands see Aku's community, they're in the Discord, they're checking it out. They're like, this is first of all, it's a character that is super dope. Secondly, this community is super supportive of Micah and what he's doing. And if we add value to them, they're gonna be supportive of what we're doing. So like when I say that like Planes and Puma and BBC are all thinking of ways, and Vandal are all thinking of ways to add value, it's because they're incentivized to, because it's going to be super good for them and whatever they want to do beyond Web3, utilizing Aku's community as a platform.
You mentioned merch during the conversation, and or I don't even know if you used that word specifically, but like, did you bring on like a fashion designer, or like how are you thinking about that? Because that's something that I've been wondering about a lot recently, especially because I mean, frankly, you can buy a full-time fashion designer straight out of college for like not like the salary's not too high. But I'm just wondering, like, how are you thinking about that side of things? Because you're discussing all of the different channels. Fashion to me just seems like a massive one potentially.
Oh man, we're working on something really, really cool with that, with a really dope partner. And no, I mean, Vandal, obviously, we have a lot of people like in Miami. We had 3 fashion designers design merch for Miami. You know, we had Jerome Lamar, we had Laylee May. Laylee May's the first woman to ever do a Jordan sneaker. And we had Push do a merch, right? So we just onboarding and help elevating other designers, bringing it into Web3. Who Decides War? You know, Who Decides War is one of the most elite brands in the world, and they designed these Akutars. It's just bringing in other people who can, you know, put their little spin on Aku. But we got definitely more of a merch coming later on that's beyond just like brand partnership and more Aku centric.
I mean, I could see it like this sort of character falls within a skate brand. I could see it on skateboards and some other stuff. Like I remember Alien. What was it called? I think it's something like something Alien, Toy Alien. Or Alien or Toy Alien. Anyways, I remember like that the iconic character on the back of boards, and there were a bunch of them like this. But anyways, you know, what you've built is incredible, and it's exciting to see. And we need more people like yourself who are building and committed to really developing out that IP, which I think look, the drop of your PFP project when you make a couple $1 million the first time, for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I made it.
Right.
like that, like that's it. But it's like no. Like there's an entire world and business that you're now building, and yeah, yours is a demonstration of just a well executed one of those, and we're still just beginning with that entire cycle.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I think it's exciting, man. Like I say a lot of people, like, we could have gone and sold the IP a long time ago. And we could have just been kicking our feet up and laid back. You know, the hardest part is creating IP that is undeniable. That is the hardest part. Like, it hasn't been, that's very rare. So we had that, and we had success, and we could have gone and kicked our feet up. Like, nah, like, because if we committed to this, like, we're committed to the community, pure, blank, and simple. This is a chance that not many people would ever get a chance with, and it's way cooler to win with a bunch more people than it is to like sit up, kick your feet up on a beach that just you own. Like that's lame. It's cooler if everybody is having fun. Like it's just fun. So like, let's do this. Let's do it independently. Let's just grind and do dope things. Like no big deal to hop on a plane and go to London so we can all grind through and make sure the launch goes smoothly for everybody. Let's do it because it's a no-brainer for the team. Like they're like, let's go. Like we got work to do. Then we'll go back into the office the next day, get back to work on what we were already doing, and just keep it moving.
Hell yeah. And I mean, with IP, look at what's in the movie theaters now. It's literally the comic book superheroes that are from like the 40s, 50s, 60s.
See what I'm saying?
It's insane.
Mickey Mouse, right? Like, when's the last time? Like, I have a thesis, and I've talked about this on Spaces before, that NFTs are going to lead to the IP renaissance, just in the sense that no quality new IP has come. Like, it takes a decade for something to come out. Like, there's like basically one new IP thing a decade, you know. And I mean, look at what you're building right now. It's absolutely well on its way, if not about to just totally break out.
Yep. That's
Dude.
how we look at it.
Like when you said that, Pio, I'm just like, yeah, fuck Marvel. Like I'm thinking literally like just the sheer volume.
Beef.
How many superhero movies can I like literally like of the same genre back to back to back to back to back to back?
It's time for something fresh. It's time for something fresh, man. Something fun, something that people like are invested in. Like, imagine that. Imagine we keep scaling this out as it comes to distribution time. And then, you know, you got the movie ticket. Everybody got movie tickets distributed to them, and it's a whole thing. It's like it's pandemonium, man. And I think that's why what's so exciting and like why we just work all the time is because like we're not even close to the end goal. Like, but it's gonna be fun when like everybody's partying and get to enjoy it. And be like I was here from the beginning, and probably still saying I told you so because there's still gonna be these DJs who still don't ask
haters.
I welcome the haters. I got one last question for you, which is, and someone in the comments had asked it, Chase, about the Vayner Sports Mint. Like, what's have like the logistics around that been defined yet, or is it more in the works right now?
No, we're gonna do a few NFTs for the Vayner community. We're working on those now. Got a team working on those as we speak, and they're going to incorporate a little bit of the Vayner ethos. And so that, you know, really showing what, you know, Vayner has built. And so those should be coming out later this month for the pass holders.
It makes me just think as we're going through this, because like with NFTs, we create more NFTs. Like that's part of having an NFT business. And I'm like, how do I present all these things in a way that's like truly reflective? Because right now it's like all on my OpenSea page, and it just doesn't feel you know, worthy of something. That's something for someone else to solve. But anyways, it was a thought that came to mind. Pia, was there anything else you wanted to ask?
I don't have any more questions. I'm like that Don Rickles meme that you see in Discord sometimes where he's on stage and he's like, like I'm just too bullish right now. I'm like, I can't believe how bullish I am. So Micah, thanks so much for coming on both shows today. We've been hanging with Micah all day today. And have a safe trip to. Oh, it's been fun for us too, man. And hope you guys have a safe trip to London. And look, man, I can't wait for this Dutch auction. Like, I'm just ready to have a bigger bag of Akutars. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah, man, I'm ready too, man. I appreciate you guys showing us love, man. And everybody listening, go tell your mom, your friends, your sisters, you know, because it just help tell people about Aku. I know I don't do a good job explaining it sometimes, and we get caught up in what we're doing, but you know, we got a lot of exciting things coming after this, and we're ready to rock and roll.
I mean, you're building a business, and it's and you're operating as a leader of that business. So, and you're doing a great job at it. So, congratulations on where you're at so far, and wishing you much success on an ongoing
Likewise.
basis here.
Yeah, likewise to you guys too, man. Love what you guys are doing, for real.
Really appreciate it. Well, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll see you again on this show as time progresses and you continue to build. We're excited to watch it.
All right, fellas, y'all be good.
Have a good one.
Check out Aku, everyone.